Julie Newmar, the most gorgeous woman in the world with legs that go from here to Chicago.
In 1977, Julie Newmar filed a patent that changed women's fashion forever. But that wasn't her biggest secret. Now, at 91, the original Catwoman is breaking her silence about the violent neighbor feud that cost her millions, the devastating assault she never reported, and why she suddenly vanished at the height of her fame. This is the story she's been afraid to tell for 60 years. Julie Newmar was born in Los Angeles on August 16, 1933. Her real name was Julia Shaleen Newmeyer. From the very beginning, her life was surrounded by art, performance, and physical excellence. Her father, Don Newmeyer, had been an NFL lineman in the 1920s. Later, he became the head of the physical education department at Los Angeles City College. He was strong, disciplined, and dedicated to athleticism. Her mother, Helene Jesmer, was a dancer in the famous Ziegfeld Follies. She wasn't just a performer, she was one of the most admired showgirls of her time. Even the comedian Eddie Cantor once said she had the most beautiful legs in the Follies. Julie grew up in a home where movement and expression were everything. Her father's sports background and her mother's stage career gave her the perfect mix of discipline and creativity. She was surrounded by music, dance, and physical training from an early age. Her mother's Swedish-French heritage also added a unique cultural influence. Julie absorbed it all. She was intelligent, elegant, and determined to make something of herself. By 15, she had already finished high school. Most teenagers were still thinking about their futures, but Julie was already moving forward. That same year, she traveled across Europe with her mother and brother. It was an eye-opening experience. She saw the grand theaters of Paris and the historic beauty of Italy. She experienced different styles of dance, art, and music. This wasn't just a vacation. It was a deep dive into the world of performance. It shaped her taste, her style, and the way she carried herself. When she returned home, she became a prima ballerina for the Los Angeles Opera. This was no small achievement, especially for someone her age. Ballet required intense discipline. It demanded both physical and mental strength. Julie embraced it completely. Every performance refined her skills. Every movement trained her body. She wasn't just learning to dance. She was preparing for a lifetime of performing. But ballet was only the beginning. Julie had a deep love for learning, so she enrolled at UCLA. She studied classical piano, philosophy, and French. She had a sharp mind and a love for culture. But after just 6 weeks, she felt the pull of something stronger. She knew she belonged in the world of performance, not in a classroom. She made a bold decision and left school. At 19, she started working at Universal Studios as a choreographer and dancer. This was her real education. She wasn't just performing. She was learning how films were made, how choreography worked behind the scenes, and how to command attention on screen. Julie Newmar's journey in Hollywood started with dance. Before she became famous, she appeared in films as a dancer, moving with grace and confidence. One of her most memorable roles was in Serpent of the Nile in 1953. She played the Golden Girl, covered in gold paint from head to toe. The film was a historical epic about Cleopatra and Mark Antony, starring Rhonda Fleming and Raymond Burr. Newmar's role was small, but her golden appearance made a lasting impression. She took on many brief roles in those years, each one adding to her experience. In Slaves of Babylon that same year, she played a dancer assassin, a title that suggests more than just elegance. She also appeared in The Bandwagon, one of Hollywood's greatest musicals, where she danced alongside legends like Fred Astaire and Sid Charisse. These roles gave her the chance to work with some of the biggest names in entertainment. At just 19, she was already choreographing and dancing at Universal Studios. She had talent, but she also had discipline. Hollywood was competitive, and many performers faded into the background. Newmar didn't. Her striking beauty and ability to command attention made her stand out. Then came Seven Brides for Seven Brothers in 1954, a musical that remains a classic. She played Dorcas, one of the 7 brides. The film was known for its energetic dance numbers, choreographed by Michael Kidd, and Newmar's skills fit perfectly. Every movement, every scene, showed how much she belonged in front of the camera. Hollywood musicals were thriving in the 1950s. Films like Singin' in the Rain and Oklahoma had already set the stage. 7 Brides for 7 Brothers followed in their footsteps with high-energy choreography and a lively story. The cast performed physically demanding dance sequences that blended ballet, jazz, and folk dance. Newmar's role wasn't the lead, but it was enough to prove that she had something special. Broadway was her next step. In 1955, she made her debut in Silk Stockings, a musical starring Hildegard Neff and Don Ameche. She played Vera, a ballerina, a role that suited her perfectly. Performing live was different from film. There were no second takes, no editing, just the audience and the stage. It was a challenge, but she thrived. In 1956, she took on a role that would define her Broadway career. She played Stupefying Jones in Lil Abner, a musical based on the popular comic strip. Her character barely spoke, but that didn't matter. Stupefying Jones was meant to be unforgettable, and Newmar made sure she was. She appeared for only 3 minutes, yet audiences couldn't stop talking about her. Critics praised her presence. She didn't just play the role, she became it. Lil Abner fit perfectly into the changing landscape of Broadway. Musicals like West Side Story and My Fair Lady were raising the bar. Lil Abner had a lighter tone, filled with humor and satire, but it still stood out. Newmar's performance became legendary, so much so that when the show was adapted into a film in 1959, she was asked to reprise her role. Her success in theater didn't stop there. In 1958, she took on a new challenge in The Marriage Go-Round. She played Katrin Sveg, a Swedish temptress, in a performance that blended comedy with allure. She had always turned heads, but now she was proving that she could hold the audience's attention with more than just her presence. Then came the biggest moment of her career. She won a Tony Award for Best Featured Actress in a play. It was a turning point. She wasn't just a dancer, she wasn't just a striking figure on stage. She was a star. Winning a Tony meant more than just recognition. It meant she had arrived. It meant that all the smaller roles, all the dance numbers, all the hard work had led to something bigger. She had proven that she could do more than look the part. She could act, she could captivate, and she could shine in any role she took on. Her career continued to grow. The Marriage Go-Round was later adapted into a film in 1961, and she once again played Katrin Sveg, this time alongside James Mason and Susan Hayward. The transition from stage to screen was seamless. Whether live or on film, she had a way of making every scene feel like it belonged to her. She stepped into the Twilight Zone in 1963, playing Miss Devlin in the episode of Late I Think of Cliffordville. It was a show known for strange and thought-provoking stories, and her role was no exception. She played a mysterious woman with a devilish twist, delivering her lines with a calm and eerie charm. Her presence alone made the character stand out. Fans of the show still remember her performance, not just because of the story, but because of the way she played it. Another role came in Route 66, a series that took viewers on a road trip across America. In 1962, she appeared in 2 episodes as Vicki Russell, a wealthy and adventurous woman who had more to her than just glamour. She wasn't just there to be admired. She had personality, wit, and a sense of independence that made her different from the typical female roles of that time. These early performances made it clear that she was more than a pretty face. She had the ability to bring life to any character. Then came My Living Doll, a show that should have been a bigger hit. The series ran from 1964 to 1965 and had a futuristic and comedic premise. Newmar played Rhoda, a lifelike android designed to be the perfect woman. But instead of making her stiff and mechanical, she gave the character a graceful, almost hypnotic presence. Her background in ballet and mime helped her move in a way that felt just unnatural enough to be convincing. CBS President James T. Aubrey personally chose her for the role, knowing she could make it special. And she did. She blended humor with innocence, making Rhoda charming in a way that kept audiences entertained. But the show faced problems. It was placed in a bad time slot, competing with Bonanza, one of the biggest shows on television. That alone hurt its chances. Then, Bob Cummings, her co-star, left the series after 21 episodes. He had personal struggles, including rumored issues with addiction, and without him, the show couldn't hold together. Even though My Living Doll only lasted one season, it still has a cult following today. People remember Newmar's performance because she made something unique out of a character that could have been one-dimensional. It was proof that she had a way of making roles unforgettable. Then came Batman in 1966. This was the role that made her a legend. She stepped into the part of Catwoman and turned the character into something completely new. Before her, Catwoman was just another comic book villain. After her, she became an icon. She had never even heard of Catwoman before being cast, but as soon as she saw what the role could be, she knew exactly how to play it. She made the character flirtatious, funny, and unpredictable. Her chemistry with Adam West's Batman was electric. Every scene they shared had a playful tension that kept audiences hooked. She wasn't just an enemy for Batman to fight. She was a character people wanted to see more of. Newmar's version of Catwoman was so popular that it shaped every version that came after. Actresses like Michelle Pfeiffer and Anne Hathaway brought their own take to the role, but the foundation had already been set. She made Catwoman more than just a villain. She made her a character with charm, wit, and a sense of fun. Her impact didn't stop at her performance. She even changed the costume. The original design had a belt at the waist, but she thought it would look better sitting lower on the hips. It was a small change, but it made the costume stand out. It made the look sleeker, more stylish, and more iconic. That decision became part of television history. Today, her original Catwoman suit is preserved in the Smithsonian Institution. It's a reminder of how much influence she had, not just on the show, but on pop culture as a whole. Julie Newmar didn't just play Catwoman. She brought the character to life in ways no one else could. She had a background in dance, and she knew how to use movement to make Catwoman feel more powerful, more mysterious, and more dangerous. She wasn't just saying lines. She was creating moments. One of the most famous scenes from the 1960s Batman series was when Catwoman tried to seduce Batman. She moved around him like she was in complete control, teasing him while secretly planning to poison him with her perfume. Every step, every glance, every shift in her posture was perfectly timed. But there were no rehearsals. She didn't need them. Years of dance training had taught her how to move naturally, how to hit every mark without thinking. That's what made the scene so memorable. It felt effortless. It felt real. That wasn't the only scene she choreographed. In another, she slid down a railing and told Batman she wanted to marry him. It was a trick, a way to create tension between him and Robin. The entire scene was filmed in a single 3-minute take. That kind of shot required precision and confidence, but she pulled it off without a problem. She had a way of making everything look smooth and natural, turning simple movements into something playful, seductive, and unforgettable. Her version of Catwoman became legendary, but playing the role wasn't easy. The sleek black lurex cat suit that made her look so striking was tight and uncomfortable. It didn't stretch much, making it hard to move. The metal claws she wore weren't just for show. They were heavy, and sometimes they hurt her hands. But she didn't let any of that slow her down. She did many of her own stunts because she believed it made the character feel more real. The challenges were there, but she pushed through them, knowing that every moment on screen mattered. Even though she made the role unforgettable, she didn't return for the 3rd season. She had already committed to another project, a film called Monsieur Lecoq. she had no way of knowing that the movie would never be finished. That decision cost her the chance to continue playing Catwoman. The role was then given to Eartha Kitt, who brought her own unique style to the character. Julie Newmar's life was filled with love, loss, and resilience. In 1977, she married attorney J. Holt Smith and moved to Fort Worth, Texas. They dreamed of starting a family, but the journey was heartbreaking. Julie suffered 3 miscarriages, each one a painful reminder of how fragile life could be. But in 1981, at the age of 48, she gave birth to her son, John Jules Smith. After everything she had been through, his arrival felt like a miracle. Becoming a mother changed everything. John was born with Down syndrome, and 3 years later, he lost his hearing due to meningitis. Life became more challenging, but Julie never saw her son as a burden. She called him her greatest teacher of unconditional love. She believed children with special needs were gifts, not limitations. She encouraged John's creativity and supported his passion for art. His work was even featured in exhibitions, something that made her incredibly proud. Raising John brought endless joy, but it also placed strain on her marriage. The responsibility of caring for a child with special needs can be overwhelming. By 1984, just 3 years after John was born, Julie and J. Holt Smith divorced. Despite this, Julie remained completely devoted to her son. She put her career on hold, choosing to focus on being the best mother she could be. Long before John was born, Julie experienced another devastating loss. In 1962, her younger brother, Peter Newmar, died in a skiing accident. He was only 30 years old. His death was sudden, something no one in the family saw coming. Julie adored Peter. He was charming, handsome, and full of life. Losing him left a permanent void. Her older brother, John, who had always been a strong support in her life, was deeply affected as well. At the time, Julie was on the rise in Hollywood. She had already made a name for herself in films like 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. Soon, she would take on her most famous role as Catwoman in the Batman series. Even with her growing success, Peter's death was a wound that never fully healed. Her brother John played a key role in her career. He encouraged her to take on the role of Catwoman, knowing it would be a perfect fit. Their bond remained strong through all of life's ups and downs. Julie's life was shaped by love, loss, and the strength to keep moving forward. Julie Newmar became famous as Catwoman in the 1960s Batman series, but her talents went far beyond acting. She was an inventor with a sharp eye for fashion, a businesswoman who knew how to market her ideas, and a real estate investor who transformed neighborhoods. She wasn't just playing a character on screen. In real life, she was always thinking ahead, always creating. In the 1970s, she came up with an idea that changed the lingerie industry. She noticed that most pantyhose flattened a woman's curves instead of enhancing them. That didn't make sense to her. Why wear something that worked against the body instead of with it? She wanted a design that lifted and shaped, something that made a woman feel confident. She called it cheeky derriere relief. Her first patent was granted in 1977. It introduced a shaping band that ran from the crotch to the waistband, fitting between the buttocks to create a more sculpted look. It was a simple but clever idea. Her second patent improved on the first. It used a blend of nylon and lycra, making sure the pantyhose stayed supportive and comfortable after multiple washes. She launched her brand Newmar, a name inspired by her own, and wasted no time promoting it. She had the personality and charm to make people pay attention. In a 1977 interview with People magazine, she described her pantyhose in a way no one could forget. "They make your derriere look like an apple instead of a ham sandwich." That one sentence became part of the brand's identity. But pantyhose weren't her only invention. She also designed a brassiere with hidden straps, something inspired by Marilyn Monroe's effortless style. She wanted lingerie that was beautiful but practical, something that worked under any outfit without ruining the look. Her talent for creating and selling didn't stop with fashion. In the 1980s, she took on an entirely different challenge: real estate. She saw potential where others didn't. Instead of buying properties just to sell them, she focused on transforming entire neighborhoods. Areas like La Brea Avenue and Fairfax Avenue in Los Angeles were struggling at the time. Newmar saw their charm, their history, their possibility. She restored old buildings instead of tearing them down. She kept their original beauty while updating them for modern life. She believed a neighborhood should keep its character, even as it changed. Her work didn't just raise property values, it made these areas more vibrant, more inviting. Julie Newmar, the original Catwoman from the 1960s Batman series, had a long and messy feud with her neighbor Jim Belushi. What started as a small dispute over property and noise turned into a legal battle that lasted for years. Belushi, best known for, according to Jim, accused Newmar of trying to drive him out of the neighborhood. He claimed she destroyed his fence, messed with his landscaping, and spread rumors to make him look bad. He also said she spied on his family and blasted loud music just to annoy him. Newmar had her own side of the story. She said Belushi was the real problem. His loud parties and constant noise made it impossible to relax in her own home. She even bought air traffic controller earmuffs just to block out the sound. She also accused him of making property changes that blocked her natural light. The tension between them kept getting worse. Neighbors took sides. Some thought Newmar was odd. Others saw Belushi as a bully. Things got serious when Belushi filed a $4 million lawsuit against her in 2004. He accused her of harassment, defamation, and vandalism. The legal fight dragged on. Belushi's lawyer said the case was too big to settle quietly. Newmar's attorney pushed for mediation. For months, nothing changed. Then, in 2006, something surprising happened. They suddenly announced that the fight was over. Belushi dropped the lawsuit, and in a strange twist, Newmar even made a guest appearance on According to Jim. It was a bizarre way to end a bitter war. Even after the dust settled, their feud remained one of Hollywood's strangest neighbor disputes. But Newmar's past held an even darker story. Early in her career, while training at the Actors Studio, she experienced something traumatic. The school was famous for its intense method acting techniques. Students were pushed to their emotional limits. During one rehearsal, things went too far. Her scene partner attacked her. It was shocking and deeply upsetting, but instead of speaking out, she stayed silent. At the time, Hollywood was not a place where actors, especially women, felt safe sharing personal traumas. In the 1960s and 1970s, people rarely spoke about abuse or mistreatment. Careers could be ruined by scandal, even if the actor was the victim. Newmar, like many others, kept her pain to herself. Despite this, she kept moving forward. She became an icon, best known for her unforgettable role as Catwoman. She played bold and confident characters on screen, but behind the scenes, she had endured the darker side of the industry. Julie Newmar's return as Catwoman in Batman. Return of the Caped Crusaders was a moment of pure nostalgia. The animated film, released on October 10, 2016, reunited her with Adam West and Burt Ward. It brought back the same playful energy of the 1960s Batman TV series. This time, Catwoman teamed up with Joker, Penguin, and Riddler to steal a powerful device called the Replication Ray. The plan seemed perfect, but Catwoman had her own agenda. She used Batnip to turn Batman against his allies, hoping to control him. But things took an unexpected turn. The other villains betrayed her after realizing she still had feelings for Batman. The film captured everything fans loved about the original show: the exaggerated fight scenes, the bright colors, the ridiculous gadgets Batman always seemed to have at the perfect moment. It premiered at New York Comic Con on October 6th, before its digital release on October 11th. DVD and Blu-ray copies followed on November 1st. Fans and critics praised it for staying true to the spirit of the original series. Even after so many years, Newmar's performance as Catwoman remained unforgettable. She played the character with charm, wit, and just the right amount of mischief. Her role in the film led to a sequel, Batman vs. Two-Face, which was released in 2017. Sadly, Adam West passed away before its release, making it his final performance as Batman. Newmar spoke fondly about the experience, saying she loved stepping back into the role and introducing Catwoman to a new generation. Her influence extended beyond Batman. In 1995, she became part of a film that paid tribute to her legacy in a completely unexpected way. To Wong Fu, thanks for everything. Julie Newmar was a road trip comedy about 3 drag queens played by Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo. The film's title came from an autographed photo of Newmar, which the characters carried with them as a symbol of inspiration. She made a surprise cameo at the end, appearing as herself. In the final scene, she crowned Chi Rodriguez as Drag Queen of the Year. It was more than just a fun moment. Her appearance represented a connection between Hollywood glamour and the world of drag. At a time when LGBTQ+ representation in mainstream films was rare, To Wong Fu stood out. The film spent 2 weeks as the #1 movie in North America and earned $47.8 million worldwide. More importantly, it opened doors for future films and TV shows that celebrated self-expression. Newmar never let herself be defined by a single role. She embraced new opportunities and remained connected to fans across generations. Even in her 90s, she stays active on social media, sharing personal stories and thoughts on life. Her presence online is unique. Unlike many celebrities, she doesn't rely on a team to run her accounts. She interacts with fans directly, responding to messages and offering words of encouragement. She often shares glimpses of her life in Brentwood, where she lives with her partner, John. Gardening has become one of her biggest passions. She frequently posts photos of her garden, showing off vibrant flowers and lush greenery. Despite living with Charcot-Marie tooth disease, a condition that affects the nerves and muscles, she remains active and positive. Instead of letting it slow her down, she uses her platform to raise awareness and inspire others facing similar challenges.